Hey guys, I am sure you know it is challenging, probably one of the most challenging things you will ever do in a lifetime to start a small business. Now, in this video, I'm going to share the 5 most common reasons why small private practices go out of business, they can't sustain, and we're going to start with number 1, which is they have no competitive advantage. I cannot imagine starting a business from scratch with no competitive advantage. Being better than is not an effective competitive advantage, but that's what so many of us start with. We're better than the competition. We care more. We deliver better service. We do one-on-one. We have all of these things, but they're not true competitive advantages. Let's talk about what would be a true competitive advantage. Maybe you have a connection to a referral source. Maybe it's a family member. Maybe there are strong social ties. And you know that if you open a private practice in a specific location, you are guaranteed to receive a certain number of new patient referrals. That is a competitive advantage over other competitors who might come into the market. Location is a huge competitive advantage. When we look at opening a new clinic location, we want to identify the best geographic location based on ample parking, based on ease of entry and exit from the parking lot. There are several geographic factors that I look for in choosing a location, and I will open a location in a highly competitive market if I know that I can essentially gain the high ground, right? If you've read The Art of War, you understand that we want that kind of competitive advantage. It can come in lots of different ways. Another great one is maybe you have knowledge about administrative processes. Maybe you have knowledge about billing. Maybe you can submit claims more efficiently, more effectively than a competitor. That gives you a larger profit margin. Maybe you're a phenomenal marketing individual. Maybe you have a huge personal brand that is almost guaranteed to bring high reimbursing, high profit clients to your practice. A great competitive advantage that's actually really easy to do is to look in the existing market for underserved populations. When I first started one of my clinics, I came into a market that had a high number of referrals for individuals with fibromyalgia. None of the other local clinics wanted to accept referrals for treating fibromyalgia. So I said, you know what? I'll do it. I've got a great unique treatment philosophy that gels well with this clientele. Send me all of your patients that are dealing with persistent pain or fibromyalgia, but I do ask that you also send me some of your sports medicine referrals so that I have a variety, right? But accepting fibromyalgia referrals was a competitive advantage. So number 1, identify your competitive advantage and leverage it to the full extent. Number 2, understanding your unique value proposition. So what makes you special in the marketplace? You know, the competitive advantage is what gives you a head start, but the unique selling proposition or unique value proposition is what makes you special, what makes you stand out. One of my favorite marketers, Seth Godin, talks about being the purple cow. You're driving through dairy cow country and everywhere you look you see black and white cows. They just start to blend into the background. But if there was a purple cow sitting out on a pasture, you would stop, you'd get out, you'd grab your phone, you'd take a selfie, and it'd be all over Instagram. What makes you that purple cow? What is some claim to fame that you can put out there that truly is something that other clinics cannot claim? And don't think that because you say you deliver one-on-one service that the other clinic doesn't say they deliver one-on-one service. Whether they actually do or don't, it doesn't really matter, because the way our business is set up is once the patient's in the door, once they've signed the paperwork, they're pretty much going to be committed to that plan of care, right? There is not a lot of people that are willing to disrupt a treatment plan of care, even if they're not happy to go to someone else. So you need to identify what is your unique value proposition. For me, it's all about convenience. In my clinic, we're all about convenience, convenient scheduling, no surprise billing. We make therapy as absolutely easy as possible so that we can't guarantee effectiveness. We can't guarantee that we're going to cure your 20-year history of low back pain, but we can say it is going to be convenient. There's not going to be any surprises. You're going to know exactly how much it costs before you do anything, and we guarantee all of that. Okay, number 3, not understanding who the customer is. I think this is probably, after the competitive advantage, this is one of the biggest frustrations for clinicians. If you're going into a third-party payer system, the patient is not the customer. The patient is the person receiving the service. The patient is not the customer. The insurance company is the customer. The patient hired the insurance company hired the therapist to deliver the service. The insurance company is the customer. Now, if you're going into a self-pay world, private pay, cash pay, 100%. Patient is your customer. Customer is king. You do what needs to be done to satisfy the customer. But in most third-party reimbursement systems, the insurance company is the customer. They're the ones paying you. They're the ones sending you a W-9 at the end of the year. In fact, they're the employers in that situation. Although you believe you're self-employed, you believe that you're a business owner, if you're working under a third-party payer contract, they are the boss. They are your employer. So give them what they're buying, but be aware that you're not giving them more than they're paying for. You know, you would never have somebody come in and say, what can I get for 20 bucks? You tell them, and then you give them a premium service worth 100. If they have 20 bucks to spend, you give them a service worth 20 bucks. If your insurance contract says this is what I'm buying, then that is what you give them, and you don't give them anything more. Because if you do, you're doing it not just out of your expense, out of your pocket, but you're doing it at the sacrifice of the rest of the profession. So we have to be very mindful of what it is the customer is buying, who the customer is, and that we deliver to the best of our ability what is being purchased, not more. Number 4, inadequate capitalization. Like, no surprise here. Most of the clinicians that I'm talking to, most of the clinicians that I'm working with, they're going into private practice for themselves. They're becoming a mobile therapist. They're opening a brick and mortar clinic. They are tight for cash, right? Everybody and every organization has had a hand in their pocket for decades. They've been paying student loans for tuition to school. They've been paying interest. They've obviously probably have a mortgage. They have a car payment. Like, they're barely squeaking by. They're counting every penny. And now they want to go into a business that requires capital. If you want to be successful, you have to have money to spend. So my typical advice is, don't even think about opening a business, going into private practice until you have that first $100,000 in cash sitting there that can fund the business. Now, most people aren't going to do that. Most people are miserable. They need to get out. So go into a hybrid model. Go into a situation where you build your bankroll. Your primary focus during the first 3 to 6 months is get to 100,000. Do what you need to do ethically, morally, to get to $100,000. And so I've shared another video recently where I said, look, if you're a contracted Medicare provider, Medicare on average is reimbursing about $100 per a 4-unit, 60-minute visit. You can do $100,000 in a year, seeing 7 active patients on caseload, 2.5 to 3 times a week. You'll get to that number. And if you see more than 7 patients, if you do more than 20 visits a week, you'll get to that number quicker. You know, but get that capital so that you can actually grow your business. Finally, I do think this is more of a personal issue. Too many times I see clinicians serving themselves instead of serving their patients. Right? They're going into business because they want to do what they want to do, not so much going into business because they want to do what the patient wants them to do. And I understand this is a gray area. I understand that you're being hired as a professional, right? It doesn't make sense for me to go hire a surgeon to do a knee replacement on myself and then tell that surgeon what I want them to do. So if we're going to be in that role of, I'm the therapist, I'm the professional, you, the patient, are hiring me to do the best job that I can do, let me do it. I think we have to communicate that effectively. But unfortunately, I think too often therapists go in with that mindset of, hey, I just spent 7 years in school. I've got 10 years of clinical experience. I've got all of these continuing education credits behind me. I know what's best for you. You want to solve this problem. I have the solution. Let me do it. Meanwhile, the patient is going into the relationship with, my shoulder hurts, rub it and make it feel better, right? That's the reality. It's them versus us. We have our ideas and our mindset, and they have theirs. But just be aware, are you in this to serve yourself? Are you in this to do what you want to do? Or are you in this to serve the patient? Either one can be successful. I've seen both of these models work, but when you don't clearly communicate your role, your purpose, your treatment philosophy, it sets you up for failure. So in my opinion, those are the 5 most common reasons why small practices, new startups fail, and usually they fail pretty quickly. And a failure might not look like a failure. I'm not talking about claiming bankruptcy. I'm talking about the person that wants to go in the business, never gets a footing, never gets the funding, the finances in their bank account, and ends up just taking another job somewhere else because it's easier. It's always easier to take a job somewhere else. So let me know what you guys think. If you have reasons that small private practices fail that I didn't mention here, go ahead and post them in the YouTube comments below, and I'll catch you on the next video.